So do you have some other examples of low-hanging fruit that would be quite easy for organisations to deliver?
Yeah, well, the engagement pillars that we have, enable, it facilitates the conversations across these 5 areas. So just to touch on the pillars, I suppose, and examples of low-hanging fruit would be, looking at your communication. How could we very quickly enhance communication so we can communicate the right message to the right people at the right time? There's different communication messages needed to different people based on role, location, etc. So it's quite easy to improve communication quite quickly. So, social media style feeds and interactions are very quick wins, providing people with easier access to resources that they need to be more effective in their role, tools that they need, just put them at their fingertips. It's not rocket science. It's just making people more empowered, making them feel, that they're making a difference by making them more efficient. Self-service is another great opportunity. Just enable people to be able to get things and ask things and request things for themselves. That might be as simple as access to your rotas or access to your payslips. It can be very simple things that can make a real difference to people quite quickly, and that can make a real difference to people. We work with a large transport organisation where there was an issue with culture, particularly around drivers, and they were really struggling to engage with them. And one of the things that we did from a self-service perspective with them out of the gate from day one was just simply providing access to rotas. Now, that might not sound like an engagement thing, but within an engagement strategy, when you're looking at feedback, comms, recognition, etc., it's got its part to play. And because it was easier to access a rota, of course, engagement levels increased, and we had over 90% of drivers engaging with the organisation within 2 months, because initially it was the selfish reason to want to have access to the rota. But then very quickly they realised that they can interact with their colleagues, they can access their employee benefits, they can have a voice, and then engagement then becomes more obvious to individuals as far as what's in it for them.
I think that's really interesting, because if you think of engagement as your emotional connection with where you work, some of it is like how you feel about the people you work for and the people you work with. But there's also an element of it that's about, do you feel aggravated, like trying to do your job? Like, do the systems and processes in your organization make it easier or harder for you to do your job?
Yeah.
And often in health, for example, people say a lot of those systems and processes, they feel like it's a challenge to get through those, as well as, the day job being challenging enough. So I could really see how the easier you make it for people, the better they feel about the place they work. And so it all feeds into that broad topic of engagement.
Yeah. There's a really interesting session that the team and I run with all the organisations we work with, and we call it "What's in it for me." So it's one thing for an organisation to have a great engagement strategy, vision and values and purpose. The organisation and the senior team can be enthused and excited by the journey that they're gonna take. But from an employee perspective, they need to understand what's in it for them, what's going to be the benefit to them of a successful engagement strategy. And it's looking at those areas where we can really impact their day to day. And I've already touched on many of the things: communication, recognition, continuous listening, let them have a voice, making their day to day easy with simple access to things. All these things are obvious things that make the employees' experience enriched. And these are things that what's in it for them. Why should they want to get involved in this engagement journey? And if we can find enough things where an employee thinks that's great for me, it makes the whole journey a lot more effective and simpler. And it's not difficult to do. We either get employees involved in the sessions, or I'd say to the CEO or the HR director, if we had a range of your employees in the room with us now, and we said have a grumble for 5 minutes, what type of things would they be grumbling about? Let's capture those and take those grumbles away out of the gate, and talk about the fact those grumbles are going to be taken away out of the gate before we launch the platform, so they understand from the get-go what's in it for them. And then we'd expect, adoption rates and engagement rates to be really increasing quickly within the first 2 to 3 months.
Yeah,